There's been a lot of chatter in the writing community lately. It honestly doesn't feel like something new. I usually avoid making videos about this stuff, but I wanted to make my thoughts known because emotions are running hot and I'd like to cool things off. I somehow think making a video is going to do that, but let's continue anyway. I wanted to touch base on some of the topics I've seen causing friction in the circles I travel, those being reviews, the Iron Age, and quality issues. If you've been on Twitter, YouTube, or elsewhere lately, you've probably noticed the split between the slowly dying traditional media companies and the million hungry creators ready to eat its lunch. Well, I feel it's time to wade into this particular piranha-filled river and give my 2 cents. First up to bat is the indie review problem. There's been a lot of talk among reviewers I know, mostly about authors resenting anything less than a 5-star review. I've witnessed a few fights about this, and it's surprising. If you're not an indie author, you may not realize how important reviews are to us. Authors of all types want good reviews, and lots of them. Having a lot of positive reviews is seen as a book being popular, and given the difficulty of getting reviews, it's hard to argue. I read a book last year that laid it out along these lines. Organic reviews are close to 1 in 100 book purchases. I'm not sure the veracity of that number, but I can speak from experience when I say getting customers to commit their opinions to your product is a bit like pulling teeth out of a living alligator. So let's get the big questions out of the way. Does a customer owe an author a review? No. Does a reviewer who spends their time reviewing others' work owe an author a 5-star review? Again, no. Do sub 5-star reviews hurt a product? Maybe, but not as much as losing future reviews. Let's expand on this. Does anyone owe an author a review of their work? The answer again is no. However, reviews provide other customers an idea of what to expect. They also provide authors with important feedback on what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Does this mean you have to write out a dissertation? Absolutely not. Just laying out a short paragraph or a list of things you liked and didn't can make a huge difference. I do find it amazing, in a society that has so much to say on everything from food to politics, we have so little to say on the books we've read. Maybe this is because books are a more personal thing. Most people don't read books in groups. There are reading groups and even live readings, but these make up the small minority of readers. It doesn't help that reading is very introverted. So do reviewers owe 5-star reviews? As I said before, no. Many people are caught up in the dream of replacing Hollywood. It's gotten to the point that people are attacking each other over less than perfect scores. This isn't a recent problem. Before the Iron Age was a thing, I witnessed this happen among many of the indies I met when I first returned to the internet. There will always be those who demand absolute perfection in their reviews. This usually means they don't want a review, they want an endorsement. There's also those who trade reviews, or worse, use reviews as a weapon. This does nothing but harm the writing community as a whole, and takes away time from developing your craft. Do I expect things to change? Well, no. People like this have always existed, and will always exist. People may fall out of these behaviors, and some lacking patience may fall into them. As far as bad actors, all you can really do is deny them oxygen and attention. I get raging about these people can be entertainment in itself. I'm guilty of that too. In truth, all that does is taint your mood and give people a grim outlook. So as an author, what should you do about bad reviews? The simplest answer is nothing. That's not entirely true, but let's break them down into 2 camps. There will be sub 5-star reviews, from people who either found your book perfectly fine, it just didn't have that mythical quality that makes it a 5-star, or people who found something they didn't like with your work. Either way, they took the time to express what they thought. If you have to interact with them, thank them for taking their time. You now have some information, however vague, on ways to improve your writing. If you attack these reviewers, call them out, or demand more from them, you're going to at best never get a review from them again, Or at worst, push them into the second camp, the bad faith reviewers. There are people out there who will give you a bad review purely out of malice. They're a very small group. Most people won't waste their time on this, and that's true of most people who write reviews. But there are those who will lie, stretch the truth, and accuse authors of all sorts of negative things. What can you do about it? Well, practically nothing. There are a few things you can try, and for that I recommend the book, The Unofficial Author's Guide to Selling Your Book on Amazon. I've been meaning to make a video on this book for a while, and I still intend to. It's a very short book, and if you want to read it, it's free, and I'll leave the link in the description. My advice outside of what's offered in this book is simply, don't feed the trolls. It's an age-old idiom that will serve you well all over the internet. So do sub 5-star reviews hurt a product? Well, the short answer is no. Granted, I only have my own experience, those of other authors I've talked to, and the far more successful types whose books I've read. There's an extreme minority of people who won't buy anything that doesn't have a perfect score. But again, extreme minority. Honestly, the percentage is so small you would never miss it. How do I know? Look up your favorite book on Amazon. Does it have a perfect score? Try another. You can do this forever and probably never find a top-selling book with a perfect 5-star rating. I'm sure I could be proven wrong, but that would be the exception to the rule. If you're watching this, you're probably not the exception either. Truthfully, more reviews will help sell your book than 100% 5-star reviews. A book that has 200 reviews and is at a 3.9 is going to get more readers than a book with 30 5-star reviews. The second looks like the author's friends and family helped, or even worse, the author bought positive reviews. Just remember, most reviews are someone's honest opinion. There's no quicker way to make an enemy than to attack someone else's opinion. Moving from reviews, let's talk about the indie community and the Iron Age. I know some people use these interchangeably, but they're really not. The Iron Age movement is a recent thing. The indie author community, I believe, is close to 2 decades old, if not older. There are also indies who go trad, or trads who go indie, for various reasons. There's been some problems popping up in the last year, and most of those are with some of the big names. The big names I'm going to list here are just some of those I'm actually familiar with. The Iron Age movement has a lot of people in it, and while I've reviewed some of their work and try to network in the community, I can't really call myself part of that movement. The big names I'm aware of are Eric July, Razorfist, and Shad Brooks. Each has a little controversy around them, but we'll handle July and Razor first. As I often do when I talk about Razorfist, I'm going to mention that I'm subbed to his channel and I'm a fan of his YouTube videos and rants. Mr. July I'm less familiar with, but I've had exposure to him through podcasts and friends who've read his work. The problem? Honestly, their works in the field of writing aren't very good. I've read the first 2 books Razorfist put out, and I've had several friends express their dislike of Mr. July's work. Being bad at something when you start isn't really a problem. No one starts out good at anything. The problem is, we hold these guys to a higher standard. There are problems inherent with moving to a different medium when you've already got a massive following. It can be really hard to get honest feedback, but these guys have access to a lot of things that most indies dream of when starting out. Mr. July had a remarkably successful fundraiser for his comic. There are many who worked in comics who, from what I understand, are almost legendary and were dismissed from the recent wave of ideologues that have taken over the industry. Mr. July is free to do with his money as he will, and maybe he did hire some of these professionals to help him with his first comic. But from what I'm hearing, the quality isn't reflecting that. If you've seen my reviews of Razorfist's books, you've probably grown sick of the words developmental editor. Well, I stand by them. He's showing improvement in his second book, but I still really encourage him to get some outside help on the structure and more specifically the wording of his books. I've had people mention the price of Razorfist's books to me, and I have to admit they're rather pricey. In my case, I can write them off in my taxes thanks to the videos on this channel. And for that, I have to thank business write-offs. That being said, I can't really fault them for cashing in on their name recognition. I can't say that it makes me happy to spend $25 on a hardback novella, or the $15 I spent on the 3-hour audiobook, but he's free to charge it if people will buy it. I say the same thing about the books political pundits put out, and it leaves the same bitter taste in my mouth. The first two being done, let's talk about Shad Brooks. I'm far more conflicted with Shad. I discovered his channel along with several others about weapons and armor back in 2018. I found them a great resource when writing my first book and building the world and the characters in it. Then Shad's book came out. I've done an almost hour-long review of Shadow of the Conqueror, and my friend KirkpattieCake has done an hour-and-a-half review. We even had a 3-hour live stream discussing the book in detail. To say the book is disappointing is an understatement. I'm very forgiving to first-time authors, even authors a few books in. This is due to what authors may or may not know going in, their lack of resources, and general inexperience. Problem is, Shad had the money, or at least the position to suggest he had the money, to get professional help. Developmental editors, professional beta readers, and etc. I've even heard rumor he consulted with Brandon Sanderson. I don't know if that last one is true, but either way, initially I didn't want to come down too hard on this 20-hour exposition dump. Then the AIs arrived. I'm not going to condemn AI. I feel it's a very powerful tool we can use to make entertainment and technology better. I don't, however, condone AI art. The reason is simple. It's an algorithm that takes chunks out of artists' works and creates a new image out of them. Basically, it's using other people's copyrighted works to make a new product which a lot of really big companies want the ability to copyright. Or to paraphrase further, it's copyright infringement with extra steps. Well, Shad dove right in with the AI bros. I don't know if Shad is part of the Iron Age, but I know he's at least tangential to it. My original estimation of the Iron Age was a way for indies to support each other. This means authors, artists, and other content creators. However, AI is a threat to all of that. I've watched as Shad has used this new tool to compare himself to artists and disparage their skills and in many cases their livelihoods. The artist community is tangential to my own. I've employed a few artists for cover art, promotional drawings, and even character sketches. Hell, I'm even prepping an art contest with paid commission prizes. Details will be in the description. While AI is a threat to both our communities, art seems to be the most embattled. That's not to say I'm not mad at the AI bros currently drowning out the ebook market with pumped out trash, but I think the problem is less a threat to authors than it is to artists. After watching Mr. Brooks' recent defense of AI art, I'm starting to come to a different opinion of a man I used to respect. That is, I don't think he looks at the creative community as legitimate. I don't want to accuse the man of grifting because I don't have any proof of it. I have admiration for anyone who wants to write a book and follows through on that dream. Writing a book takes a sizable commitment and should be applauded for that accomplishment. But I don't think Shad sees it the same way, and I'm starting to think that maybe he had other motives. But again, this is just my opinion, something that I've made clear on the quality of his work. That being said, I do believe the Iron Age is a good idea. Bringing indies together to push against an industry that shuns us is a good thing. I will always encourage other authors and content creators to work together and support each other. Not just with promotion, but critique, connections, and knowledge. A strong community of creatives will help increase the quality of entertainment. That will bring me to my last topic. Is there an indie quality problem? Yes. Is there a traditional publication quality problem? Yes. Is there an overall entertainment quality problem? Yes. First, let's focus on indie. As someone who reviews books in my spare time, that includes indie books, I believe I'm qualified to say that yes, there's a problem in indie quality. The problem with that statement is that indie publishing is vast. We live in a time where it's never been easier to get published. If you have a manuscript, you can do it in an afternoon with Kindle Direct Publishing. They'll even make a cover for you for free. You'll get what you pay for, but they'll do it for free. I know several authors with vastly different opinions on independent publishing. One that sticks with me churned out about 10 to 12 low-quality books a year and cleared almost $100,000 when all was said and done. This, I hope, is not what most people who watch this want to be. And this man is definitely in the minority. But it isn't too uncommon. The most popular genre on Kindle is romance. There are several authors who make a lot of money churning out cheap romance novels to the tune of several a year. These stories are often very similar, with the same plot, storyline, and characters with a new coat of paint and different names. These authors will probably never be rich as they reduce the art of storytelling to just another desk job. But let's highlight something more helpful. Of the indie books I've read and didn't finish, I'd have to say the biggest factor was lack of editing. I've said before and will say forever that editing is expensive, but it's necessary. You need to pick yourself a grammar cop and let them work their wonderful autism all over your story. Good editing is like cleaning your bathroom. It's only noticed if it's not done, and only by other people. I believe it was John Garner in his book, On Becoming a Novelist, that said, "A novel is a continuous daydream we're passing on to others. Anything that breaks that dream is your enemy." I'm heavily paraphrasing, but the point stands. So please folks, get your books edited. While editing is important, so is beta reading. I say this as someone who has trouble finding beta readers himself. It's a big ask going to someone and asking them to read an unpolished manuscript full of typos and potential plot holes, then asking them to tell you what they see wrong with it. It's even harder being a beta reader for someone you know, because not everyone takes criticism well, but it's better to catch problems before publication than to have someone point it out on YouTube to hundreds or thousands of potential readers. I point these problems out to help other authors and to improve my own reading experience. The truth is, the market is very unforgiving. The best example I can give is look how other people treat each other on the internet. Now imagine one party can't fight back. Many of you don't have to imagine this because you've been on the internet for the last 10 years. This is why improving our quality is so important. Which brings me to my last and final point. Does traditional publishing have a quality problem? Oh Lord, yes. So outside of my own reading, I'm a frequent watcher of the Livestream. This is a stream where a bunch of us get together and listen to an audience-selected book. We recently finished Library of the Dead. While it's not the worst book that's graced the Livestream, it could easily be confused for it. Library of the Dead is a traditionally published book, and it has some of the worst structural problems I've ever seen. Frankly, it would have been a did not finish for me. The book was a rambling pile of nonsense with only a whisper of a plot that came and went with the breeze, as the main character spoke an incoherent gobbledygook like an octogenarian running for office. Worse yet, this is the first in a trilogy. It's won awards. This is indefensible. Most of traditional publishing's problems come from it leaning too hard into politics. Without getting too specific, a bunch of people wanted their unpopular ideologies to be popular, so they infiltrated the big publishing houses, and suddenly getting published wasn't about the story you could tell or the money they could make, but do you push the right message? Do you have the right number of X people as good characters? Are the right number of Y people as bad characters, etc. All this did was take popular franchises and make them boring and unpopular. So what can we do? Well, as a small fry myself, I have a few ideas, and you can take them for what they're worth. First, make the best product you can with the skills you have. A good product slow is better than a bad product fast. Second, make connections. Find others starting out. It's true that editors are expensive, but if things are tight, try working with newer editors. Everyone needs practice to get better. The last thing I can recommend to everyone in these spaces is, realize for most of us, this will only ever be a hobby. The best thing you can do is enjoy what you're doing. Read the work of your fellow indies and give them feedback and reviews. Run our YouTube shows and talk to each other. But mostly, have fun and make stories you enjoy. And with all that said, I wish you all good luck.